Hi, my name is Sunglan Park, and the legislation that I chose is the Clean Water Act. This piece of legislation is significant to the environment because the Clean Water Act aims to prevent, reduce, and eliminate pollution in the nation's water in order to restore and maintain the chemical, physical, and biological integrity of the nation's water. History and background of the Clean Water Act. The historic law was designed to protect all of our waters from pollution and destruction. This comes into action because of the public outcry over dirty rivers, which spurred Congress to pass the landmark Clean Water Act in 1972. The Federal Water Pollution Control Act of 1948 was the first major U.S. law to address water pollution. Growing public awareness and concern for controlling water pollution led to sweeping amendments in 1972. As amended in 1972, the law became commonly known as the Clean Water Act. The law came from the Subcommittee on Air and Water Pollution, chaired by Maine Senator Edmund Muskie. The Clean Water Act has brought our waters back to life, turning rivers and lakes from dumping grounds into healthy waterways. It keeps 700 billion pounds of pollutants out of the water yearly. In addition, it has slowed the rate of wetland loss and doubled the numbers of water that are safe for fishing and swimming. Moreover, wildlife benefit too. As water quality improved, fish species rebounded in damaged systems across the country. The Clean Water Act in action. Under the CWA, the regulatory responsibilities of the nation's facilities were preventing water pollution, giving discharge permit, meeting water quality standards, creating risk management plans, and keeping records of water quality and actions under the Act. However, because of the burning of the Cuyahoga River, which was not the only environmental disaster caused by the unregulated dumping into our nation's water, the public event finally drew the public eye to the issue. This latter caused nearly 1.5 million in damage. EPA worked with its federal, state, and tribal regulatory partners to monitor Water Act and ensure compliance with clean water laws and regulations in order to protect human health as well as the environment. The Clean Water Act is the primary federal law governing water pollution. This act establishes the basic structure for regulating discharges of pollutants into waters of the U.S. and regulating quality standards for surface waters. Evaluation of the Clean Water Act. This law fully recognized that water pollution is presented a national problem and established standards across state boundaries, introducing federal regulatory measures in the absence of state action. Levels of metals like lead in our rivers have declined dramatically. Ultimately, the cost of clean water drinking lowered because the entire system is healthier. The Clean Water Act comes with the Supreme Court set to hear oral arguments about whether certain waters can be protected under the Clean Water Act in case of Sackett v. Environmental Protection Agency, also known as EPA. The poll release and UN Climate Week gets underway shows Americans strongly prefer the federal government maintains water standards. 68% of the population think it is very important that the EPA have the authority to protect clean water through the Clean Water Act. Water is an essential part of the environment that is needed for drinking, bathing, and cleaning. Although the United States water supplies is generally safe, water can and may be contaminated in a variety of ways, such as sewage leak and many more. More than 50 years later, the Clean Water Act has funded approximately 35,000 grants totaling $1 trillion invested towards curbing water pollution. Key findings from a poll included that 95% of Americans say that protecting the water in our nation's lakes, streams, and rivers is extremely important. 88% agree that it is important that EPA has the authority laid out in Clean Water Act, such as restricting pollution entering our waters and limiting the destruction of physical damage to lake, rivers, wetlands, streams, and other waterways. This poll was conducted between August 26th to 27th in 2022 amongst a sample of 2,210 adults. The interviews were conducted online, and the data were based off gender, age, race, and educational attainment. This result from the full survey has a margin of error, and most people in the United States get their water from public water systems or private wells. Therefore, 95% of Americans say that protecting the water in our nation's lakes, streams, and rivers is important. In conclusion, the Clean Water Act should remain in effect because the law states that our nation's water from pollution and destruction protects public health and wildlife habitat. Because of the Clean Water Act, pollutions have been kept out of rivers, and the number of waters that meet clean water goals nationwide has doubled, with direct benefits for drinking water, public health, recreation, and wildlife. Some recommendations would be environmental conditions can be improved through policies and programs that support monitoring, regulations, and investing in infrastructure, federal laws such as Clean Air Act, as well as Safe Drinking Water Act, which will regulate water quality that has been affected in reducing the harmful health effects of pollutants. Before the Clean Water Act, cities commonly dumped raw sewage into America's rivers. Industrial facilities disposed of their chemicals waste in streams, lakes, and oceans. Nearly 500,000 acres of wetlands were lost annually, and by the mid-1980s, more than half the nation's total wetlands were lost. If the Clean Water Act was to be rescinded, I think the Safe Drinking Water Act, also known as SDWA, should take its place. EPA has established protective drinking water standards for more than 90 contaminants, including drinking water regulations issued since the 1996 amendments to the Safe Drinking Water Act that strengthened public health protection. Over 92% of the population supplied community water systems receive drinking water that meets all health-based standards of all time. Therefore, this has showed how the Clean Water Act has improved health as well as wildlife in water in numerous ways.